live. Are you ready?
Yeah,
I think it's too late now. I think we're stuck.
exactly.
All right. So, everyone, we are live with Sight Reading Maverick, and this is a special edition today. I am so excited about this. We have with us today the Ivory Piano Duo. Is that what we say? Ivory Piano Duo? Yeah.
Ivory duo piano ensemble.
Oh,
Same thing.
Natalie Zaldarakis, right?
Yes, very good.
And then, okay, should we call
Just call me Peter. It's okay.
Peter?
Yeah.
Peter. Arcondites.
Yes.
I've been practicing. Can you tell?
Very good.
Fabulous. Well done.
So, for people that have not joined the show before, every Sunday at 1 o'clock my time, which is 6 o'clock over in the UK, I do this crazy thing where I sight read for an hour, and I sight read pieces that people send in that they want me to sight read. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it's a disaster, but it's all in good fun. And part of the reason I'm doing this is because I've always loved to sight read. And I believe strongly that, especially as pianists, but all instrumentalists, singers, sight reading is one of the most valuable skills you can have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people are truly terrified by it. I don't know if you two experience that. But we'll
Can I change
discuss.
my answer depending on how it goes today?
Oh, I see.
If it's in a different clef or different,
Yeah.
I've had something like this happen.
Yeah. So anyway, on Twitter, I put out a call a few weeks ago saying, would anybody be bold and daring and like to join me some Sunday? And Natalie almost immediately piped up, and I was so shocked but excited. So, with the advent of technology, this is kind of new for me, but we're going to try this today. It could be a little hairy, but we're going to try it anyway. So to start out, I think what we're going to do to warm up is to play this little Haydn piece that was sent to us by one of our viewers, Louis. And I guess he transcribed it. It's a Haydn Adagio. And so, like a lot of pieces of this period, you've got an A section, and the A section repeats. Then you've got the B section, and then the B section repeats. So, Natalie and Peter, here's what's going to happen. Actually, I think I'm going to let you two start. So if you want to both do it. So somebody needs to pick to do that first section. And then I will do the repeat of the first section.
Oh, okay.
And then somebody can play the second section. And then I will do the repeat of the second section. That's how we're going to start today.
All right. So I don't know if your viewers have seen the score. You have given them links.
There's links. That's a good thing to bring up. Yes, there's links.
Well, this is the second page. There is the first. Here we go. Yeah. And because I know that at least some people have said, oh, that we want to tune in and you know, this is a hairy subject, you know, bugbear, I heard from someone. I'm going to say that, first of all, I mean, that's very helpful for Adagio. And I think Adagio, I always disregard it. I go too fast and I go, yes. So, yeah. And the demi-semiquavers say, well, better take it easy because Adagio and who wants to. Then I'm going to say, since, you know, I know that for your viewers, something there, that, you know, it's not a mystery, meaning that, I mean, we play a lot when we train. And so if you look at it as a typical F major, and then I see basically direction. Now, it's very nice for me to lecture. I haven't played anything. So first I play, then I will gloat or not.
You want to do first? Or?
Shall I go and do the first? Yeah, okay. I'll do it there, but not a repeat. And then I leave you with a repeat.
Yeah, I'll do the repeat. And then if you want to swap places,
we're going to swap.
To do the next bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and we'll try to keep a steady beat.
Oh, sure.
We'll try. Yes.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah. Spread the pages out.
Spread the pages, sure. Yeah, don't say read something else. Okay. Whatever. So.
Yay!
Nice.
Have you heard that Adagio before, either of you?
It sounds familiar, but it could be from a sonata, it could be from a symphony, it could be from...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like a, what's this? 17, eh? That's not a sonata, is it? Because he's
I have
probably in
no
16.
idea.
16
No idea.
but
No.
yeah, it could be.
No clue.
Well, Louis is watching, so he can always pipe in and let us know where it came
Absolutely, yes.
from. So wonderful. So I have a question since we just did that. I partially chose that one because it was requested, but also because, you know, slow movements in that period of time with all those, demi, semi-quavers,
Yeah.
30-second notes, 16th notes. I find that those movements, they look not so bad, but then when you start to play them, it can be a little daunting, right?
Start to wonder where the beat is.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, how do you deal with that? Or do you not? Do you just guess?
Well,
you.
I could start by saying, I mean, obviously after the second time bar or measure, after the second time measure, it's easy when you have the left hand quavers because it's kind of like a subdivision of a beat. But when it comes to something like bar, what's
14
that?
probably.
Bar 14 or even 18.
Yeah.
You know, there maybe the beaming helps because you get the groupings of the beats, but that doesn't mean you still haven't, you know, mustn't work hard to count, you know, and put and fit in the semiquavers and then the, you know, the 16th note, the 32nd notes, the 8th notes in the hierarchy, you know. So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Natalie, what were you going to say?
I think we all agree, but it's this is basic to keep the pace. And I always tell my students, look at what you have, what kind of denomination values you have. So if the smaller one is a demi-semi, so this is a 32nd or 64th or whatever, then you cannot be counting crotchets or, God forbid, minims, which is quarter notes or half notes. This is too big. And then you're in trouble. So it is always best if you have very small values to think of quavers, which would be an eighth notes, to just, you know, it's not the right thing to do on a 3/4 time. The composer has said 3, but this is for the finished product. That's not for dealing with the immediate problem.
I think that's a really good point, Natalie. I mean, I think you've both made really important ones. One being, when you're sight reading, you have to employ different strategies than you're going to do ultimately, right? So it's survival, and it's making sure the ideal in a movement like this for me is to not add beats accidentally. It happens. But the other thing, Peter, I really like your observation that you use, which is to look for those beams and the way the composer beams them, because that's a really good clue, and for me, a visual clue. So if you're having a sense of what your basic subdivision is that you're going to keep in mind, and you know what that looks like beaming.
Yes, yeah. And that's also helpful when you're doing theory, when you're doing music theory, and you have to put measure lines or you have to put the right time signature, the right meter. You know, these beams really save time. And then you just do the counting to make sure it's not a 7/8 rather than a 4/4, you know, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and Peter, you're a composer as well, aren't you?
Arranging mostly.
An arranger.
But we play. We both play modern composers, and so
the film music.
So we get a lot of funny time signatures. You know, meter changes are crazy.
Yes.
Yeah. So you must be very attuned to how best to beam things. You're a good composer because
I like that kind of music because it keeps you on your feet, on your toes, I suppose is the expression. You know, it keeps you alert.
Yeah.
Like for film music, for example, the classic example is Jerry Goldsmith with his meter changes all the time. You know, he's he does the stuff that usually John Williams doesn't do. You know, the meter changes.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really action sequence, you know. So that's where time signature changes get really useful. But in that kind of music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yes, Natalie.
Yeah, I wanted to, well, if I remember 2 points, but the one I find with students, usually they try to stick with maybe the right hand, and then they forget about the vertical aspect, which is going back to what Peter is saying about the beaming, because it shows you. So it's more about the vertical. So if you can just slice the music so that you have a steady reference and then see what fits with what.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That would do. And the second point, since I do remember it, because usually I start with one, forget the other, is that this is why we ask students to learn lots of music, because different types of composers and through different genres, different writing, and we do accumulate certain formulas, essentially. So, but this is like this, although it looks intimidating, again, for your viewers, it is a typical classical era writing, and it crosses between the Baroque and but this is not as intimidating, for sure, into classical. So when you have this kind of writing, you've read Mozart and Beethoven, Clementi, Cuneo, Kula, whatever the teaching sonatinas that come across, then you accumulate an experience and you say, oh yeah, I know how that goes. And the hand then gets into that position, let's say. So this is important, that the more you read from a specific composer, the more you get accustomed.
Yeah, and Beethoven is really educational because he introduces 128th notes in very slow tempi, like Sonata Number 1 or the Third Piano Concerto, like five lines. And
second movement.
And this
I
is
always have to count.
Oh yes, the subdivision of a subdivision of a subdivision. You know, it's crazy.
As a student, can I just say, as a student, I was looking at that second movement going, surely that doesn't fit. How many lines? Instead of counting.
Where's my ruler? Yeah.
Well, and if you think back then when they had to do it by hand, you know,
Yeah, thank goodness for Sibelius now, yes.
No. But I think you just brought up another good point, and this is something I talk about with students about why they should sight read more. It's because it is building up a dictionary for each composer and for each period of music. Because you're right, the more you get that dictionary built up, you're going to be recognizing patterns, recognizing harmonies. So you aren't facing just black notes that scare you and intimidate you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can even improvise a little bit. So even if you do a pattern that approximates something that composer might have done, hey, that works, right?
It can even help you get out of a difficult situation. Kind of wing it, you know, kind of get through without distorting the whole thing, of course. But yeah,
Exactly.
that's helpful for accompanists when they play with musicians within 10 minutes notice.
Does that ever happen though? I don't know.
In the UK, they do it a lot. Yeah. Oh yes, I have this piece. It's easy. You look at it, it's like it's easy. Yeah.
So this brings me to another question, because there are some composers I hate to sight read because I don't feel like my dictionary, I think it's very small. Like my pet peeve, I cannot read Ravel.
No, totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you have any composers like that? Well, Ravel.
Do you want to see what he accompanied? The daughter is violinist. She has to come up. And literally the last work that Peter had to accompany for her was the Szymanowski Nocturne and Tarantelle. Do you have it anywhere here? Oh
no, but
God.
it's quite because it's also, you know, it's not only it's not only the piano part itself, but how it stacks up. Oh, there it is.
It's there.
It actually has 128th notes. I didn't realize. I just realized.
Okay, you know how pieces usually start with the easy part, right?
Yeah.
That's the easy first page.
Oh my goodness.
And it's also fitting the violin and the piano together, you know.
Yeah.
Making sure you don't let them down and they blame you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the worst one.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's only a tremolo. It's really a tremolo, but just looking at it,
Yeah,
you know, gives you a bit of a doubt, you know.
Now, is this the whole thing, or like?
Yeah, but it's one-sided. It's no, there's more underneath. It's okay. It's not that big. It's not that big.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, now I know what not to play.
Yeah.
I sight read, talking about Ravel, the Tzigane, which is violin and piano.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yes, and that was easy compared to this thing.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I started sight reading. Peter said, I'll do it. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do it. So I sight read and it's like, yeah, that's doable. That's fine. It's like, is it ever going to finish? No, forget it. I'm give up. I don't know.
And I guess
this brings up another point that I just thought of, which is when I'm sight reading and somebody throws something at me at the last second, right? And it has tons of notes. I know for me, one of the primary things I think is important is rhythm. Do you also feel that way, or like what's a priority? Because there's pitches, and I think actually a lot of young musicians who are working on sight reading, it's so hard for them to get out of that mode of, no, I have to play all the right notes.
Yeah.
It depends on the composer as well. If it's and the period. If it's something classical, romantic, sometimes I think more what's the most important layer in terms of texture, like the melody and the bass, and then maybe the chords. Rough idea, it's probably a 1-4-5-1 type of thing. I don't know. But when it comes to modern, once I remember I had to accompany a saxophonist, and she played a very contemporary piece. I literally did not play the notes. I just played the rhythms, and it still sounded fine. Don't say that. But you know, and that was on the first rehearsal. Of course, I went back and practiced it. But it still worked because it was driven by the rhythmic aspect rather than the harmonic, which was not there. You know.
Right.
So it's quite interesting. It depends on the case, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think it does. And I think this is an important discussion, and I don't hear a lot of discussions about this, but I think for people learning how to sight read or working on it, they approach it just from one aspect, which is survival and panic and,
Yeah, that's difficult. Yeah.
To assess before you start.
Can I just say, since we're having this conversation, I think everything is important. As you say, this is a topic that has been quite neglected. I'm quite happy. I mean, I watched before, and I knew your name before. I still can't think why, but it's like Erika Simon, so of course I know. And maybe a publication, something, but I watched that you're doing what is missing from, even in the education training, this is neglected. And I'm going to say, when I started, and that's going to show age now, but there were no internet, no nothing, and we were stuck in Greece. Well, I was, and this one between Greece and Australia, but me, I was stuck in Greece. So I had to spend serious money to buy scores, and I wanted to play things, but I didn't have access. You had to buy LPs, 80s. Mm. So it costed me money. So I decided, that I need to look and be able to sight sing in my head. And I don't have perfect pitch. He does. I don't. But I could understand, because if it is major, you can see. So you need this framework that helps you. And I think the theory or the analysis, at least understand this is going to be major, And as a teenager, I kind of went, I don't like major scale pieces. They sound too happy. That's rubbish. I want something dramatic. So I'm not having it. So that was number one. So I wanted to know from the beginning, like if I like the melody, at least, hear it somehow in my head. That was important. The other thing I said to myself is, I can't have this. I literally paid for my master's with money I didn't have, because I got employed as the accompanist. And they threw hundreds of pieces at me. It was ridiculous. I did all the singers, they were cheating, I was cheating anyways, but it was many pieces. And he's like, yeah, when do I practice from my stuff? So I had to sight read.
Right.
And the idea was, look, you have to have something that you see it, the sign, because we all read notes, that's it. But that's not helpful enough. I don't read notes. I read one note in a big, let's say, chord. I see the octave. My hand knows that this is the octave, not this, no negotiating. I've learned exactly. If I go now, this is a fourth, this is a fifth, and you probably can tell from my hand. Yes, because it's how big the hand is. So I know exactly. So I started with recognizing thirds. It sounds stupid now, because a third is easy from space to space, to line to line. But I keep saying it to students, and it's till it clicks, you know? So I said, okay, at least I will recognize all thirds. Then I will recognize all, well, fifths are like 2/3 in a row with the middle one missing. So that helped. So to see the shape and to get the shape before you look at the key, rather than search for single notes.
Yeah.
That is helped also by reference to chords. This is why we say the harmony. If I know it's a C major, I see the octave C, we're done now. If it's an E or a G, well, whatever. If it's sight reading, fine. As long as I give you a C major, we're good.
Yeah. Those are all really good points, and it kind of goes back to the whole dictionary idea. So you've got dictionaries of composers, you've got dictionaries of harmonies and of shapes and of patterns. Even if you have a 16th note run, there are only so many patterns you're going to have.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but what I find is with a lot of young musicians, they don't see the relation between notes. And so
Yeah, that's a shame, you know, because they could. Well, first of all, they're missing out on a lot of fun, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also something that can really be their weapon, you know, when they're playing.
Exactly.
Their defense, if you like.
And it helps with solo playing as well. I mean, I think sometimes pianists are like, but I don't want to be an accompanist. Doesn't matter. You know, do you want to learn your music more quickly?
Yeah, I mean, Richter is the perfect example, you know, because he was, I mean, we all know him as the legendary soloist, but he played chamber music with Oistrach, with Rostropovich. He did trios. He participated. I think one of the last things he did was Shostakovich Quintet, and I can't remember which quartet it was. And he was almost in his 80s.
Yeah.
Before he passed, you know. So it shows that everything's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we better do some music. But before we do, and you guys are the ones that doing most of the work today. So Louis shared with us in the chat that the Adagio is from 1786 and that it's not very well known. So there you go.
Is it from a sonata or is it from?
He didn't say so. So I'm guessing it's not from a sonata and it might just be a standalone movement.
Maybe, yeah.
And then somebody that you might know from Greece is saying hello with the last name Swift.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Pia.
Pia. Hi, Pia.
So she says hello. All right. So now it's, first of all, let's do a little music first, if you don't mind. Do you want to pick one of those pieces I sent your way?
Okay, let's see what we have here.
What do we have?
I'll go on vacation. Bye-bye. No.
Well, okay. There is a Respighi. There is a Satie. There is a waltz here that looks awful.
Are these four hands?
Yeah, they're for four-hand. We can do the Schmidt here. There's a Forêt with Bayreuth Wagner. They're not that bad, actually.
Okay.
Andantino Mosso. Shall we do the Respighi just because I'm holding on to it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, shall we do that? Romanze, Otto Respighi.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
I hear something extra.
Okay. Why?
We hear ourselves.
Oh,
What's happened there?
Are we stuck?
Something weird happened. Well, I just took myself off. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can see you actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just fooling around with Zoom here. Okay, I'm back on.
Okay. All right.
I
So,
told you, technology is weird.
yeah.
Is that an iPad you have?
No, it's a laptop.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm getting my pages mixed up here.
That's
For
not.
sure. Uh-oh.
Now that looks like this.
I think so. Okay. How about now? I just put
Well,
those over there.
We'll get one that is
Because-
intact.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know what's going to happen. So if we switch mid-piece, you'll know we got confused. With
Ah, that'll make it even more exciting.
it. There you go. Okay, these are my pages. This is your pages. 2 and 2. Okay. So we haven't seen this. We haven't even tried it. No idea.
Which one did you choose, Natalie?
Sorry, Respighi.
Respighi. Forget the Andantino mosso. Bum, 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 bum. Do we agree?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's fine. Yeah, shall we try that?
Yeah. Okay. That was nice.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Wait, what is this exactly?
I can't remember. It's Respighi something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have the links out. We'll see after. Wow.
Yeah, that's why I just got messed up a minute ago as I went to look at the YouTube channel. So that's not good. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, it happens.
We
Yeah,
have
but
this
that was so musical. And again, for people watching that are working on sight reading or students, this is why I do this. I think it's so important for young musicians, people who aren't as good at sight reading yet, to understand that you can play something musical at sight.
But can you imagine now? We have lots of students, and people ask us. I'm doing my PhD now for the past 4 years. It's obviously part time. I mean, how many hours of the day, right?
Yeah.
But I usually get asked, how do you get all this done? Sight reading. Because I don't go out sight reading that because then that little voice in the head goes, you're not prepared, right? This is not professional, but it gets us there really fast, which means that if we have an emergency appearance, something or whatever, we can do this. We can pull things that we know because we remember very well. We learn fast because of the sight reading, but also it allows us to access music that is beautiful. We can share it at a moment's notice.
Exactly. And I think for me too, I mean, that's how I discover what repertoire I want to learn myself for solo piano,
Of course.
right? So you're not reliant on listening to a lot of recordings, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's nothing like feeling it in your hands to
Yeah.
know, like, is this piece going to work for me? Because I know for me, there's a lot of pieces that in the repertoire that don't really fit well in my hands. You're
Yeah.
not going to know that until too late,
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your span, by the way?
My left hand can just reach a ninth, but my right hand just an octave. So
Nice, right. That's what you're saying. Yes, smaller hands are a special case. Yeah.
yeah. So, but that was really beautiful. Now, do you find that you sight read? Is it easier to sight read together or by yourselves, or what's the difference for you? Or similarity?
We can't remember when we first started playing together, but we got married very early. We were in early 20s. And then I think, Peter, you went to the army because it was a national service thing in Greece. And I think
we started
97.
Yeah.
So it's been long years now that we played together. So we know very well, but also we understand the type, by the way, because at some point I had too many of these repeated doom, 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 doom notes on the offbeat, which is not very easy because on the offbeat. And I thought, yeah, I can hear the phrase coming from the other. So talking also about that, right? So then you know how music is written for the medium. Two pianos a little bit more complicated, to be honest.
Yeah.
They take more freedom, I think.
But there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more, and they both cover the same wide range. So
true.
Yeah.
But for example, in this piece now that we were playing, there was a place where I was playing a phrase and Natalie took it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was nice to see that passing of the, like a relay type of.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And then that leads to another important point, I think, that students need to understand, is that when you're sight reading, I mean, ultimately, yes, at first, when you're a new sight reader, you're just so concentrating on visual, right? But I think as you get better and better, and when you're sight reading with other people, these are so important.
You find the hidden things in the music as well, the hidden lines.
Yes, and not only is that helpful, but I feel that that's what music is all about, right?
Yes.
And especially when you're playing with another performer, that's what makes it come alive, is this interaction between them. And so if we have more young people sight reading more and being willing to do that, and not being so scared, I think that opens up this whole new world. As pianists, it's a very solitary instrument. My goodness, to get those skills of working with another person.
That's right.
I think it's a matter of sight reading and sight reading with somebody else. Was it Lippmann? One of my textbooks, I remember, because my master's in piano performance was done in the States. It was poor Greek girl, and heavy restrictions on visa meant I missed out on going on Carnegie Mellon to study with Leon Fleischer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I didn't have money. So I ended up in a very good university. I have to say, I was quite lucky. I knew where I was going because they had Juilliard graduates in it. So I knew they were good. Westchester University, which is absolutely local.
I've been there. I just did a master class there before this whole pandemic.
Okay. So you know now that they have evolved into all Steinway, and I think the head of piano, Dr. Tim, who was it there? It's gonna come to me. Timothy Blair. Timothy Blair. There we go. He was then. I think he's still there. Bless him, because he. This is a British expression. He did a lot. I don't remember now. I lost the thread, and my throat is going. Okay, off the microphone.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. But I don't know where I started from. Do you remember?
First chapter.
Yes, before that. What was the sentence?
Oh, well, you were talking about studying your teacher, and you said, bless him.
Wait, is that,
Our train of thought is not as good as our sight reading.
That's exactly it.
That's
I can't remember now. Oh my God.
Well,
Okay,
maybe,
anyways.
I was going to say, maybe it'll come back to you.
The basic point is, yes. Textbook. I got it.
Lippmann.
It was, yes. So it was required to have sight reading and chamber music, and these two together. And that book, it was not about sight reading, it was about chamber music. And he said, your sight reading will be heaps better if you are playing with another musician to keep you going, because they can't wait for you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that was the point. Oof.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I would say it, but it's tricky because it's hard necessarily to find another musician with whom you work well with in that way. Because if you're somebody that has weaker rhythm, it's of course better to have somebody that has a better sense of it. So it is tricky, but I would say that I recommend to teachers, it's worth it to try to make that happen even within your studio as much as possible. Because it is hard to do sight reading on your own.
Yes.
And improvising too. It's a good.
Yeah.
Good
Well, and
balance.
because as collaborators, if you go into collaborative work as a pianist, you do end up improvising a lot too. So, now let's see. Do you want to do one more piece together?
Sure. Yeah. Would you like to?
Well, since your composer viewer and who has sent requests also sent something.
Yes.
I have it here, so we might do that.
All right.
Look now, he sent me. You had the version. Then he sent me another. He sent us another two. It says that they're duet. Wait a second, I see it. Primo secondo. Look, the one says it is from his. So this is Sauter, Apophtegmes, which is a Greek word. Apophtegmes.
I wondered if that was intentional that he sent that to you.
Well, and the first one is called Mystique. Now, this is not going to be necessarily that easy because, but maybe it is. We'll see. Shall we do this?
Please do.
It's only a page.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Is it a page each?
Yeah, a page each. Yes. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go second? What do you want to do?
Well, first of all, we have to swap these around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
that
first.
Explains it. I'll stay here. All right then.
So okay.
Okay. Wait.
So first page is empty.
Well, I have this that leads to that.
So you want to do it slow?
So,
It says 72. It's slow. It's slow. Go 72.
See, this is what we're talking about. So where is it going to go? What? Yeah, I didn't hear that though.
No, not yet. One, go.
Okay, wait a second. I cannot miss that. No, that's too. No. Look. Bum, bum, bum,
Times.
Counting the same. See, there's the problem. So I would like to count quavers. Yes. Okay, so. Well, actually, Yeah, that worked. Okay.
Because I knew Natalie's first beat all the time. Her left hand was very helpful, and I mean we actually did it slower, so that probably was harder because it's easier to lose the pulse. Yeah, but then again, the notes. You have to get the right notes in the right. Yeah. So
Yeah, so this is a case where we've sort of ignored the 3/4 in favor of the quaver, just to make sure. And then also I was listening for the first beat because I knew mine is leading to the first beat
Ah, yeah. Makes sense.
to each other.
Yeah.
So even if it was not 100% accurate, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna move and he'll get it. Da, da, da.
and just and that's why it's helpful. I mean, even though we have our own parts on each page, the fact that I have hers right next to mine and I can see it, you see, sometimes you have to look at, I mean, when I play with my daughter, for example, or with other musicians or with Natalie, you know, I tend to look at their part more than mine sometimes because I want to get the perspective, the whole idea, especially with this kind of music, more modern.
Yeah,
Rather
absolutely.
than, I mean, Mozart, Haydn, I'm not going to say predictable because I don't want to denigrate it, but it's quite, you can foresee what can happen, whereas here it's quite unpredictable, hence
Yeah.
exciting.
So, Peter, would you say that, or both of you, were you kind of glancing at the other person's part quite a bit while you were doing that?
Yeah, and sometimes also the hunch from hearing, I could hear her strong beat. I mean, I know her so well. I mean, she's like myself when I play, you know, so
Yeah.
we know, you know, so
Yeah, I mean, this is why we put them on the side by side at the beginning, and I was looking at his part to understand. So if I make a move, then what? Do we go together? So I knew that the first couple of times were not successful because we hadn't settled on what is it that we're counting. So I thought I was doing the quavers anyways, but obviously, which is wait now, eighth notes. But actually, we started with crotches, so that would be quarter notes. So
yeah, but the typical challenge with I mean, this is an example of a typical challenge. The first beat is a rest, and then you have a lot of ties, so you don't get a sense of that 1, 2, you know, 3. So that's why we were a little bit.
Well, and I did notice and I did hear you counting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that at least I find in a lot of students here. I don't know if it's the same over there, but people are reluctant to count out loud.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it can be really, really helpful, and there's nothing wrong, especially in a scenario like what you're just doing, right?
Yeah.
To do that, you're basically conducting yourselves.
Exactly.
I mean, jazz musicians do it.
Yeah, so why don't classical musicians?
So yeah, exactly, yeah.
I don't get that. So
Yeah.
you know, and you tell a student to count out loud and they roll their eyes or they groan or they
yeah.
It's like no. It's not like a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of greatness. So I think that was great that you did that. The proof is right there that sometimes that's very helpful. So great. Well, that was fantastic. And Louis said, thank you. That was great. So you get the seal of approval from the composer. Now, I want to make sure before we, I think, do the ending part of the show here, I want to give you an opportunity to share your exciting news and do a little sales advertisement here.
Well, luck now. So this is our CD, just came out yesterday. There.
Yay.
I'm going to open it. So I know you can go to iTunes and it's there. I don't know about Spotify. I know it's iTunes. Oh, you can share this. This is beautifully done, by the way. So wait a second.
Oh,
That.
nice.
But if I take it out, you hold that. Then look, it even has a reprinted.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and they are jazz influenced. They are piano duets, but it's called Elements of London because it's two composers that we know personally, and we've really liked their work. And we've worked with them before for a long time, and then they came up and they said, "Well, we're friends. We didn't know that they're that good friends." And it's like, we want you to have the CD made and la la la. And the one is obsessed with chemical elements and their reactivity. So very edgy, very frequent changes of time signatures, 7/8, 5/8, whatever, accents that throw everything off. I almost had an aneurysm in the studio, can I just say? Yeah, literally towards the end, because we did it right before, 2 days before in the UK, they said, lockdown, you're not moving. We didn't know. We had it booked for the 5th of April. On the 7th, you couldn't move. It was already locked down here, but on the 5th, they said, if you must work, and you can go, you can still go. So it was like, well, in the studio, there was only one person they opened up. They let us in. We're married, so same household, we're good. If we were two different ones, we wouldn't be able to, because it's too close.
Right.
And the engineer was on the other room, so very big studio, not a problem. But literally, we had one day, and I think we did it in about 10 hours. It was just crazy. Yeah, some of those are single takes. This is not how professional work is done usually, but we had, literally, we could feel that something, and we thought, we're going to save the money if we don't go again, but if we need to. And then the lockdown happened. It was like, well, we better manage in one day, who knows? And indeed. And,
Wow.
we've heard, this is for everyone's amusement, we've heard up to 150 takes for a single bar, every bar. You're saying yes. Others are like, no, you're kidding. And actually, it was a violin concerto, like Sibelius. I don't even know how you can do per bar when they have long held notes. I have no idea. And this is not some student orchestra. We're talking big names here.
Right.
I'm not saying, but no. We just did a 10-hour thing. They usually go in for a week at least, and someone else is paying. No, it's not our money, but the composers absolutely, they had their funding in place, and it's like, okay. And it was quite intense. And there's a booklet. And actually, we hear that on the 23rd of September is going to be, some of the tracks are going to be played on BBC Radio 3.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's going well already.
Well, congratulations. And I did put a link to the webpage that talks about it in the description of this event. So people can always refer to that too. But that's a huge deal. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yesterday we were again at the studio because there is a second CD on Convivium with another 2 British composers. The one brought the other, basically. So we're very honored, actually. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, kudos to you, and that's great.
Sight reading. We don't sight read in professional jobs.
I was going to say, No.
But the last piece that I played yesterday, the last piece that arrived in my hands, that was a week ago. And yesterday was done. Obviously, I did takes, Like, can I say 1 week
Yeah.
ago? Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to in that situation, I would think, unless you just have a lucky take, everything aligns perfectly. So,
Yeah. No, it gave me trouble, but that it comes down to, I understand the shape, I understand the intentions. You have the composer there, especially living composers, and like Sauter, on the second reading, the counting would go away. We would be talking about, he said pianissimo, pianissimo, the balances and the pedaling and the rest of it. You want to access the music
yeah.
faster than this. This is just bricklaying type of work.
Yes.
It's not. You want to go to the decorating.
Exactly. But it's pretty amazing how much of a good idea you can get of a piece, even in that initial read through, if you are skilled at doing that, right?
Just by looking at it without even touching the keys. It's
Exactly. And that's another skill. And Natalie, you were hinting at that a little earlier when you were talking about when you were growing up in Greece and, just looking at the score and is that a third? Is that a fifth? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? So as many little pieces you can start to accumulate and store in your memory, the better, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's very competitive out there. And kids who are now training, and sometimes they have these ideas, maybe, I go to conservatoire and I train, la, la, la. And it's like, yes, but do you understand that you need to be a good musician, and well-rounded musician comes first? Because how are you going to get all these ideas?
Yeah.
It's not from a void. You have to understand the literature. How are you going to get to know this literature unless you play and you listen? And then how are you going to learn all this repertoire? You can't go around with a small repertoire anymore. It's just not done.
Exactly. Yep. All really good points. So I hope lots of pianists are watching this and, and get some inspiration, because again, it's just not talked about very much. So,
Exactly.
So this is great. Now to end, we talked about this a little earlier, Natalie. I know this was very confusing with this last Haydn piece, but
Okay.
should
You repeat for Peter, she'll understand better. I didn't tell him anything.
Natalie, okay.
She just came out of teaching, and it's not my fault.
That's my
All right. So why don't can you sit at the piano and we'll look at the music together and we'll see if we can make this work. Peter, I know you know of this piece because Natalie said you did.
No, we listened to it.
Oh, well, but you've heard it. That's
We
good.
heard it on YouTube when we were looking for that conference, what to play. There it is. It is the Teacher and the Student by Haydn. Listen.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Is
See?
it
He
kind of
remembers.
like? I see.
And it's a question and answer.
So how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
So this is the complicated part because I want to play too, because why not? So I'm gonna play the teacher part, so the first part.
Is that? Yeah.
Yeah. And then whoever's sitting in the primo part will play that whole part, right? The tricky part is whoever plays secondo has to let me do the teacher part, but then when the primo and secondo play together, then I'm going to let you two play together because I can't do it because we have a delay.
Okay, we're having a little disagreement here. Who's the teacher here? Isn't it the second part, the teacher, maestro?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the secondo part. Yeah. So
Is that right? Okay.
I will play secondo, but only on the parts that don't have the primo part playing along at the same time.
That's confusing.
So,
all right.
But it's always the same in each variation. So I will play to the second measure or to two measures before the end of the first section. And then you two do that. Like here, I'll give you an example. So I'll play this. And then that's the repeat. Great. And then you play together the end part of that.
Ah, yes, I
Ba-da,
get you.
ba-da,
Yeah. We'll do that. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
right? And then
Okay.
in the second part of each variation, so
Yes.
yeah, and then
I'll just take it.
yep, and then together.
Ah,
Good.
oh,
And then I do it again.
okay.
Yeah, do you get it?
You got it.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So, do you think, let's see how far we can go doing it that way. Do you think we can?
Go to variation 1.
Okay, we'll start at variation 1. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. You want to keep going?
Why not?
All right.
Okay, let's
I
get
think
out to Mitch. Do you want to swap over and I do?
Yeah,
I'll do.
I'm
You play.
staying
You
here.
play more. Huh?
Yeah,
Ah,
let's
okay.
see here.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Lovely, absolutely lovely.
This is fun. I like your ornamentation, Peter.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I don't want to overdo it.
No, I love it. Should we?
No. Great. Shall we keep going?
Yeah, let's keep
We
going.
have time. Okay.
1, 2.
That was lovely. Bravo, well done.
Oh, that's good. I think that's it for today. We
Great.
did it. That was so much fun. Thank you for humoring me with that one.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and really, this has been such a good conversation, I think. And it's great to meet people of like mind about how important and fun, I really should have said fun first, how fun sight reading can be. So keep doing what you're doing in your duo work, but also I know you're both teachers. Good luck with your DMA, your doctorate there, Natalie.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do this
Thank
again
you.
sometime.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're-
We're up for it.
You know where to find us.
Good. All right, take care.
Lovely.
Thanks again.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.